the current pre-election atmosphere. The 22nd Biennial Congress, Delegates Congress of the party is scheduled to be convened on Friday, June 28, 2024. A major item on the agenda of the Congress is the election of the leader of the party. The leadership of the party. In that regard, the election of the party leadership has always been the object of spirited and sometimes over-exuberant contestation. On this occasion, given the national political climate and the anxiety of the members of the party and the wider community over the need for the party to equip itself to ensure victory at the next national and regional elections, which are due next year, 2025, the exuberance of the party's membership, and more so, the wider community, is tending to become antagonistic and counterproductive. The elders of the party, in conjunction with the ARMS, the National Congress of Women, the NCW, and the Guyana Youth and Student Movement, the GYSM, have found it necessary to have the party and its constituent parts reach out to the membership and the wider community, in particular, to call upon them to temper their exuberance and, in the interest of maintaining an atmosphere that is conducive to fierce but amicable contestation, such an atmosphere is essential for the conduct of the productive Congress and the emergence therefrom in unity, which is an essential condition for the emergent leadership to take the party forward, as well as a well-oiled machinery in the eminent national and regional elections. We ought to be cognizant that some of the external forces that are fueling the antagonism are either fifth columnists or outright adversarial to the cause of the party. They must not prevail. That requires a concerted effort on our part to be disciplined to be disciplined, disconcerting, and results oriented throughout this peak period of campaigning and preparation for the successful Congress. Unfortunately, as we focus on the Congress and the elections, we are aware that the allegations of impropriety leveled against the party leader by a female party comrade, the outlines of which are already in the public domain. We are well aware of the negative impact that these allegations have on the party, particularly on the eve of its Congress and leading up to the national and regional elections. But we are equally concerned that any such matters, though manipulated and choreographed to harm the party under its current leadership, should be addressed, and that due process should prevail. In that regard, we call upon all well-intended comrades to cease and desist from falling into the trap of seemingly trumping a cause that has the potential to distract from and disrupt the business at hand, the party's 22nd Biennial Delegates Congress. This request is made particularly since the National Congress of Women, the NCW, the arm of the party that has championed the cause of the party and women in particular, has undertaken to have the elders of the party facilitate a full inquiry into the matter, which had not been previously brought to its attention, but and in so doing, seek to unearth the truth and make appropriate recommendations on the way forward to the satisfaction of all concerned. Thank you very much.
Customary by the raise of hand, and you introduce yourself and your meeting. Just before we get to answering that, I will permit Mr. Hamilton Green to make his statement. Would you like?
of the Council of Elders.
Just 1 second.
Was established last year when there were issues of concern to the general membership. The council consists of Yvonne Haywood Ben, Cheryl Sampson, Robert Corbin, well, Oscar Clark has now departed, Jeffrey Thomas, Benny Raymond, Malcolm Paris, and yours truly. Well, Alan Monroe, who is unable to attend today, and we have earlier met with the previous leader and attempt to sort things out. Our role, we have no interest in the partisan position of the party. Our interest is to seek the truth and give guidance as to the way forward. It is clear, if I may continue, in the extant environment that we can be dealing with something that is dangerous, something that is contrived, something that is not good, something that can destabilize. Our role is to find a path and to hold anyone guilty of improper behavior and any form of impropriety, no matter how high up in the party, to call them to book and apply the appropriate sanctions to those persons or persons. We were asked to perform this daunting and difficult task just a few hours ago, and did not and will not, until there was an appropriate arrangement, speak to any of the apparently contending parties. But for what I have heard, we really can be facing a story written by George Orwell. And we may be going through the twists and turns of a typical Orwellian drama. At the end of it all, those of us who are elders and have gone through the thick and thin of this party must seek the truth and only the truth. And that is why we accepted this task. I speak to you as representing the elders, and I believe that from records available, I'm the only living survivor of the founding members of the People's National Congress back in 1955-56, when we functioned as the PPP Burnhamite, and in October 1957, converted to what we know today as the People's National Congress. As such, I have an abiding interest to vindicate the struggle of those who preceded us, those who faced the ravages of imperial machinations and deception, slaves, Kofi Commoner, Attica, and more martyrs. And that is why, even as we approach the old age, thank God, many of us still possess the faculties and the facility to help steer the ship of the PNC and by extension the government out of troubled waters into a safe haven. Thank you very much.
Svetlana? He did. Yes, he did.
The elders have been asked to investigate and make recommendations on the particular issues regarding Mr. Norton and Ms. Vanessa Kisoon. This has nothing to do with Congress. There is a Congress committee. There is a leadership in place. And so they will still continue with their work as they are required to do by Constitution. I'm quite certain that Comrade Green would like to follow up after me, but I must say that we must allow due process to take its place, and hence the eldership will ensure that they speak with both parties, but as I said earlier, that has absolutely nothing to do with Congress.
I'm not in a position to make that pronouncement. We cannot and ought not to precipitate in this matter. Let me make it abundantly clear. As an elder, when I was asked to perform the task with others, I avoided speaking to either of the parties allegedly concerned in this matter. And therefore, it will be precipitate for us to make any recommendation. I don't know what the protocols require, but we need to be very careful because as one who's been in the hustings for over 70 years, the timing of this matter is of some significance, and one ought to ensure that we don't get involved in any matter that destabilizes the party. As you all know, every story has two sides. When it comes to Ghana, it has three sides. Your side, my side, and sometimes the side that is never told. You see this in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Europe. That has been the unfortunate characteristic and the weakness of human nature. To answer your question, therefore, it will be precipitous and presumptuous of us, representative elders, to make a pronouncement. We need to speak to both sides. If the CC wishes to propose something, that's a matter for them. In fact, it should be within their competence to make a recommendation, which will be binding on the officers, including leader, chairman, etc. So that is without and beyond the competence of the Council of Elders.
And also, when
at the conclusion of the investigation, are the findings going to be made public and those recommendations?
First, this will not be a secret exercise. Second, I don't have that sense of prognostication to say how long it will last. It depends on the information, the evidence that is forthcoming. I promise you this as part of the Council of Elders. Because of its significance, the PNC is not a little fly-by-night institution. Because of its significance to the party, the country, I promise you, we'll devote our energies to ensure a swift, impartial, and proper inquiry, using the appropriate methods of summoning people. In fact, only 48 hours ago, when this matter was raised with me, and the conundrum proposed as what do you do if A says something happened on Monday and B says it happened on Sunday morning. I said, as far as I'm concerned, we will need to perhaps mobilize the appropriate resources to put in place a polygraph test if both or other parties would agree to that. And I am exposing to you an outside position because we've seen in the country. In fact, 3 months ago, I read a story of a man who was convicted and hanged. And 10 years after, in the United States, it was proved that he was not guilty. So sometimes justice must take its appropriate course. To repeat myself, we'll do all we can to bring this matter to a speedy conclusion.
Mr. Sherrill?
One of the things we will do once we begin our work, and I believe Comrade Lawrence has already done this, is to indicate to the parties involved that they should avoid speaking to and with the press and, in fact, other persons on this sensitive matter. In a small society such as ours, we love to talk name and over the fence. And so long as word gets out, it makes it difficult for justice to be properly dispensed. We seek justice irrespective of who we will find culpable.
Dennis Shabral, Demerara Waves. Why not a time frame given the fact that this issue is surfacing, for the want of a better expression, on the eve of Congress? Would you want to get this out of the way and at least enter the congressional period with a decision one way or the other? And even as I was sitting here, someone messaged me to say, well, to what extent is this inquiry that is being proposed really a face-saving measure by the party in light of this controversy and all of its implications? How do you respond to this, whether indeed this is just a face-saving measure?
Dennis, I know you to be a man of vast experience, a man of perspicacity, a journalist of some experience. You must know that it is unlikely to assemble the logistics before Congress to deal with this matter, which involves the leader of the party and a senior party member who has been around for a substantial time. And we don't want to be like Dennis the Menace Dennis. We want to give everyone the opportunity to call witnesses. Up to now, and I did not ask, we don't know the chronological sequence of some of the stories I've heard. Did this occur last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? I don't know. So, like you, we were anxious to get this over. But from my experience with public life, and remember, the Council of Elders are elders, even though some of us are still mentally acute, as I am. We have certain defects. I'm not seeing too well, and therefore we may not have to operate with alacrity of a 20-year-old or with the speed of you, Dennis. After all I have said, to suggest it's a face-saving proposal is unfortunate. You ought not to compromise the procedures for justice and equity at a speed convenient or that will coincide with an event that takes place just over a week. We understand the need for some conclusion, but I need to repeat what I said earlier. You don't rush to judgment without a thorough investigation. And I will use this opportunity to plead with party members of the public. Don't make assumptions that are not credible, are not based on fact. This is a serious matter. It involves the leader of the party and a senior activist who has been around for a long time from a community that is a stronghold of the People's National Congress. Therefore, we can't take this matter capriciously, and I promised you, as I did, I will speak to my fellow elders to put in place conditions that will expedite this matter.
At this time, I will take just two other questions as we wrap up. You can go ahead since you didn't have the opportunity to. Nightly news, I believe.
Good afternoon, members of the PNCR. I have a question. Concerning the allegations, we know that two members specifically, Eglin Gomes and Norman Brown. I want to know at the executive level, what actions going forward would be taken by members of the party concerning these said individuals who have been trying to cause division within the party?
Is that for me to answer or Comrade Balder? Again, you've made a pronouncement that a certain person is trying to cause division. That may be true, but we need to get to the bottom of the story. In life, whether you're a Christian, a Hindu, or a Muslim, human experience has been living with, characterized by good and evil. People who set out because they're by nature wicked. I will not make that pronouncement until perhaps we hear from the person who first started the story, whether he had a mental lapse, I don't know. Whether he had a lapse of time, I don't know. But we'll do our best. And if the media has information that can help us, please come forward. I repeat, like an old man, but not a stupid man. Story has three sides.
So I said I was going to take two questions, but because both of you had your hands up for a while, I will allow Ms. Svetlana and then Ms. Ivory Ward.
Mr. Hamilton Green, I know you're representing the Council of Elders, but when an allegation of sexual assault or rape was made against former PPP Minister Nigel Darmlall, the opposition and a large part the PNC would have called for him to step down even before he was, and I don't think he was charged, but even before he stepped down or he resigned or government asked him to resign, the opposition was at the forefront calling for him to step down from office due to the seriousness of the allegations. What I'm trying to find out is what's the difference between what we see happening now in this party and what Mr. Darmlall was accused of when calls were made for him to step down.
Let me make it abundantly clear. When the party leadership invited the Council of Elders, it was in the context that the two parties, the two alleged participants, were both senior members of the party. That's the first difference. Had it been a matter that involved an outsider or a young girl from Rupuduni, they could not call. In fact, it would be presumptuous and inappropriate. The party has called upon the elders because we regard this as a very serious party matter. When two persons, one the leader and the other in the leadership bracket, are involved. And we are concerned, very concerned. That is the big difference. In Dharamlal's case, it's a different matter. This is a minister and an ordinary person from outside. Thirdly, none of the persons in this matter hold high government office. But I don't want to do the minutiae, except to say we accepted the daunting, difficult task of looking at this matter only because it involved two senior party members of the party. That's the raison d'etre for my presence here, the presence of Benny Raymond, and the other members, some who are unable to attend for a variety of reasons today. I hope I've answered your question. And may I say something to the moderator? I've come out of the environment where, in dealing with reporters, I show them great respect. And I never, and those of you who know me since my public life in the 50s and 60s, I've never restricted persons who wish to ask questions. And I will plead with the moderator not to stop so long as I'm here. I have the great Ricky Singh praised me once of never avoiding the media. So I will ask the moderator, those who wish to ask questions, feel free. I am an open book.
My first question is, what assurances can you give women or persons of, or survivors or victims of sexual violence that their concerns will be, that their concerns will be taken seriously, given the attacks that Ms. Vanessa Kissoon would have faced in the public from party members? The other is, how soon can will the inquiry start? And are you concerned that you're heading into a Congress with this kind of allegation against a leader?
Let me repeat myself. On behalf of the Council of Elders, we accepted the challenge, I said, daunting and difficult, because for me, it's a very serious matter. No party can ask this nation to represent them, to manage this country, if you have people in the helm, on the captain's deck, who have lost their sense of morality and propriety. And believe you me, if we find anyone culpable, either by lying or by action, we will make strong recommendations for firm disciplinary action. And I believe that is why the group from the party executive asked the elders to intervene, because we have no axe to grind. We're out of the hustings. We have no interest in who is leader and who is not leader. Our task at the end of this matter is to ensure that justice is done. And wherever the axe fall, let it so fall. I am a student of history. We have on the throne a King Charles. Those of you who know history, which is part of our culture, when the first King Charles violated the norms and expectations of our erstwhile masters, he was taken on the block and his head removed from his shoulder. As a youngster, when I read that part of history, Some may deal the British barbarians by cutting off the former king's head. But for me, if you break the rules, that should be the punishment that you deserve. I hope I've answered your question, and we will proceed. The difficulty is, and I'm repeating myself, the Congress is days and hours away. And I can't promise you any pronouncement unless both parties come up with a story that meshes. From what I have heard, there are two divergent stories. And I don't know that that can be settled quickly.
Ivor, thank you for that question. You asked what protection we can give to women in the party. And I believe that this stance that we have taken here this afternoon, the National Congress of Women, to intervene on this matter, despite we have not been written to or we have not been asked to. We took the lead because of what we heard, what we've seen, and having spoken to the executive member of our organization that is involved in this matter. We ourselves did not get involved into a side or a story because we recognize that we cannot impartially address this matter since she is so close to us and a part of us. And that is why we've reached out to the elders and asked them to intervene. And I think this sends a strong message to the women in the party and supporters of the party that we, the women of the women's arm of the party, we are willing to act on any allegations or any misconduct against them, or even if they commit that misconduct, that we will not sit idly by and allow these things to be tried in the public domain. That the party has its rules, it has a long history of building women, supporting women, promoting women, and that we will continue to bear that torch and pass that baton on. So women can be assured that we will give them their due respect and we will investigate and seek to address whatever issues they may have. With regards to what is happening on social media, as you know, we have absolutely no hold on social media. Everybody says what they want to say. But we have called this afternoon in this statement on our supporters and members to desist from participating in those chats, in those comments about this issue in the social domain. Thank you.
Okay, on the request, of course, of my elder, I see the hand of Mr. Shabral, and I will permit you, but I just want us to note that we have a time frame that we're working with since we have another event happening shortly. Mr. Shabral.
A question to both Mr. Lawrence and to Mr. Green. Having regard to the fact that the allegation falls within the ambit of the Sexual Offense Act, why didn't both at the level of the executive and at the level of the council, the decision be taken to recommend that the person who's making the allegation file a report to the police? Given the fact, as I said before, it is an alleged offense under that act rather than relying on the internal investigative mechanism of the party.
Thank you, Dennis. Let me say that I did speak with the executive member, and at this time, that is not the course that she's willing to take. She's ready.
I don't know if you heard, but she did say that they did engage her, that Miss Lawrence would have engaged her, and she's not at this point willing to go there.
Dennis, that, as you know, you're an experienced young fellow. It's a matter for Miss Kissoon. She is at liberty to approach the police in her own right. I will not advise her either way. I will not in any way attempt to stop her from exercising her right as a citizen. Except she has been around a long time. She's lived at Linden, and she ought to be aware of the proclivities, propensities of the police force as presently controlled and managed. With that knowledge, she is at Linden when the police acted in strange ways. But nevertheless, she is at liberty, and I will not stop her from going to the police under the extant leadership. And I say no more. Because Dennis, I stood with you outside of the police station some years ago. And we were together in expressing concern for the way certain police officers behaved. And Dennis, you're my friend, but you tend to be naughty sometimes.
Just one final question I received from Mr. Adam Harris, we were Hyber, and he is asking the question. He says the alleged victim never made a report. Why an investigation? Why an investigation?
Well, in a civilized society, no matter how bizarre, no matter how absurd, if a citizen, except you can prove that person has a psychiatric problem, makes a complaint, particularly in a society where this issue is of current concern to the nation, that person has a right to express their views. In this instance, and let me repeat myself, we treat this as a serious, very serious party matter. And that is why, on behalf of the councils of elders, and we have no legal powers, they've asked us to intervene. And we hope to use our experience, our wisdom, and our knowledge to investigate, to come with some answer, so that if we find anyone culpable and therefore being a burden on this party, we'll so pronounce and use the appropriate mechanisms to have that person removed or cashiered, as the case may be. And that is the role of the elders to whom I have spoken.
Thank you. I want to thank all media personnel who have joined today's presser in person, and of course to our viewers on our social media platform. Thank you once again, and do have a wonderful afternoon.
Peace be unto you.